Moving spreadsheets into SharePoint is a great tool, but it's not always the most appropriate. Let's take a few moments to talk about when you want to move a spreadsheet into SharePoint. First thing that I look at is whether the spreadsheet is a simple one. What do I mean by that? No complex calculations, especially going from one sheet within the spreadsheet to another, or even just hugely complex calculations within a column. Yes, we do have a calculated column where we could rebuild some of this information, but it's just not quite as capable as Excel itself. Please note that another alternative here would be to use that wonderful Excel spreadsheet and present it in Excel services on a page. So you still can get benefit. But here what I'm talking about are items such as an inventory. So let's imagine that you have a list of computers and you want to know the types, the size, maybe even the owners, how much RAM and how fast the computer is. Maybe my favorite, the potluck sign up, right? You pass around an Excel spreadsheet, you're not sure who edited it last, there might be different versions floating around, and then you have too many of the same dish at your potluck. Or think of it as a simple list of, like we mentioned, the computers before, or any other items that your organization might be currently keeping track of. Maybe it's the identification numbers for employees. Maybe it's your badge numbers. Those kind of things that end up in spreadsheets on someone's desktop and are hard to find. Another key thing that I look for is, does this information automatically relate to other apps within your SharePoint site? Maybe it's a process. How do you request a computer? When's a computer updated? When it's 2 years old? So that, combined with the actual inventory, will give you great reminders and workflows that you couldn't get if you just kept the information in the Excel spreadsheet. And finally, I like to take a look at, are there multiple users that are trying to update this spreadsheet? Has it been emailed around? Is it easy to find? And also, are people asking to look at the information in different ways? I sometimes describe views as pivot tables, and of course you can create pivot tables in your Excel, but if your users are already using SharePoint, it might be easier for them to access these pages and see the information they're looking for immediately. Now that we've talked about the when and why, let's talk about what capabilities there are to centralize these spreadsheet functions in SharePoint. First, there's a capability of importing and exporting spreadsheets. Importing is really nice because you can just take an Excel spreadsheet and press a button and import it. Export is almost the same. You're in a list and you press export. Let's talk about some key things to remember. When you're importing a spreadsheet, you want to know that the columns have headers. This will mean that your columns will take those header names. If you don't do that, they'll just be column 1, column 2, column 3. And now, that's not the worst case because you can always go back and edit it, but if you ever wanted to use SharePoint Designer or other tools, it might be confusing because the real column names will be column 1, column 2, column 3, and not title, computer name, type, or whatever the spreadsheet is that you're pulling in. If you want to avoid that, the best thing to do is to actually create a table within the spreadsheet. And if you haven't done that before, insert table, highlight the area, and it will automatically transform the information into a table. And when you're exporting, what I want you to think about is take the view of information that you really are interested in, and you are able to create a report and output. Maybe you save it back into the reports document library, or maybe you have to send it to someone, and then SharePoint is the live repository of information. Next, we have Quick Edit. So one of the great things about a spreadsheet is that you can cut and paste, and you can manipulate many different items all at the same time. So the Quick Edit replaces the datasheet view, and this allows you to edit multiple items. Now there's good and bad about this, right? You can do it. You also can make mistakes. So a good thing to remember if this list is very valuable is to put version control on. So if you do make a mistake, you can always go back and override it with the previous version. If you don't do that and you start typing and you missed a column, you better hope you remember the value that was previously there. Now, a neat thing in SharePoint 2013 is that the quick edit is independent of browser. So here we can cut and paste and open the quick edit in any browser anywhere and be able to manipulate multiple items. This couldn't happen before. So again, this is either cut and paste multiple items or just do it one at a time. Let's take a look at these things live. My project team is working on different trainings, and it's important that we have the right computers available to us when we go off-site. So Bob is keeping the computer inventory on his desktop, but when we're on the road, we really need to be able to access the information. So I'm going to recommend that we import the spreadsheet. Let's take a look at how we do that. So of course we start and we add an app. And I can either scan through, or in this case I know that I'm going to import, so why don't I just type that in. Here we have import a spreadsheet. So now I know this is the computer inventory. Now I'll look for the file location. Here we go, my inventory, and import. You can see SharePoint automatically opens Excel and is asking me to do a table range. So if I had inserted a table into this sheet, I would be able to do a drop down, say table range, and it would identify the table. Here, because I don't have that table inserted in the spreadsheet, I'll say range of cells. I'll select the range, and I'll press import. Please notice that I have the headers on the columns. And look, now I have a list with the column headers just the way I wanted it, and the data from the spreadsheet. And here, maybe I want to group the laptop and desktops as a different way of looking at the information. So let's do that real quick. We'll leave all that information in. And now I've organized it by type. Now the interesting thing you see here is that in a normal column there already is a type, so it added a 1 to the field. If I go back into the list, we can see the different types of the fields. And here I'll change it to computer type. I can also come back in here and change it to a choice field when I'm adding information in the future. And look, SharePoint automatically identified the different choices. That's pretty cool. We'll change the name real quick. And now, with a few simple clicks, I've just created a centralized business solution and a different view into the information that people have been asking for than was available with the Excel spreadsheet on my desktop. Now that I've imported and possibly updated my Excel spreadsheet in SharePoint, my boss is asking me for a list and a report that he can show to other people of all of the laptops that are in our inventory. Here I've created a view, and I will export it to Excel so that he can have it as a file and show it to whoever he needs to. Go to the laptop view, then go up to List and Export List to Excel. For this demonstration, I'll just open it. Say Enable. And now you see that I have the laptop view of the list as a table within an Excel spreadsheet. It's as easy as that. You can manipulate the information, you can display graphs. It's a really great and powerful tool. Now that I've entered the information into SharePoint, I'm realizing that other people had similar lists of laptop and desktop inventories, and I need to combine them. Well, I don't want to add a new item individually. What I'd like to do is be able to edit multiple items at the same time. So now I can edit this list and use the quick edit. You can also get to it by going up to the List tab and hitting quick edit. So here I've already copied items from another spreadsheet, and actually it's the same exact items, and I'm going to use Control V and load them into the site. There you go. Also, if I want to clean up some of the data from the original way that someone had stored the information, I can come in and do some cleanup. Also, if I thought that the information was wrong and it was all this one value, just like in Excel, I can drag the information and there you go. If I thought that I made a mistake, oops, I can't go back. So here's what I was talking about, is enabling version control on a list item so that I would be able to retract my changes. Also in SharePoint 2013, you can see where you're editing. If I did change something, you would see the little wheel that indicates that it is processing that change. That's a lot of memory, but you get the point. So the quick edit is independent of any browser, allows you to multiply add, remove, delete, and update information, and is a really great tool if you're replacing and centralizing spreadsheet information into SharePoint.